You know, in the world of medicine, some of the absolute toughest questions aren't really about a diagnosis. They're about ethics. Today, we're going to dive into one of those questions using a hypothetical case study that puts a doctor right at the crossroads of legal duty and a patient's trust. It all centers on this really tricky issue, confidentiality for minors.
So let's picture the scene. A doctor diagnoses a 14-year-old boy with a pretty serious sexually transmitted disease, secondary syphilis. During a private chat, the boy reveals that the source of the infection is actually someone who works in their home. He's terrified, and he pleads with the doctor, "Please, you can't tell my mother." The stakes here are just incredibly high, medically, legally, and of course, emotionally. And that brings us right to the heart of the dilemma. Should the physician honor this boy's request for secrecy? It sounds like a simple yes or no question, but believe me, the answer is anything but. This is exactly where medicine, law, and ethics all collide.
To even begin to untangle this, we have to start with the rules, the legal framework that governs a minor's medical care. So let's first take a look at the letter of the law.
Okay, so the foundational legal principle we're dealing with here is something called legal incompetence. Now that sounds really harsh, I know, but all it means is that, generally speaking, the law considers a minor, like this 14-year-old, unable to make legally binding decisions for themselves. And that includes something as important as entering into a contract with a doctor for treatment.
So if the minor can't legally form that contract, who can? Well, the parent. The mother is the one who legally brings the doctor on board. Because of that, she has a legal right to be informed about her son's condition, and this is critical. She is also the one who has to give consent before any treatment can actually start. So from a purely legal standpoint, the path seems pretty clear, right? The doctor has to tell the mother.
But of course, it is never that simple. The law has evolved over time, and it recognizes that not all minors are the same. And that brings us to a really important exception to the rule, something called the mature minor doctrine. And this is where you really see two powerful ideas just clash head-on. On one side, you've got the parents' established legal rights, but on the other, there's this really compelling public health argument. I mean, think about it. For sensitive issues like STDs, total confidentiality is often the one thing that encourages teenagers to even seek help in the first place. If they're afraid their parents are going to find out, a lot of them might just avoid treatment completely. And that's a risk not just to them, but to others too.
And we have to think about the boy himself, right? He's not just a legal problem to be solved. He's a person who is showing a degree of maturity. By seeking treatment and by confiding in the doctor, he's exercising his own free will, and he's taking a step toward being responsible. Any ethical approach has to recognize his growing autonomy.
So if the law isn't giving us a straight yes or no, where do we go from here? Well, the best course of action isn't about picking a side. It's about finding a path forward through communication.
So what's the game plan here? Well, it's a strategy that's all about empathy and trust. First up, the doctor can reassure the boy, maybe remind him that a mother's first reaction is almost always one of concern and love. Next, it's about empowering the boy, encouraging him to be the one to tell her. Now, to make that less terrifying, the doctor can offer to be right there in the room to help mediate that conversation, but only if the boy agrees. And finally, a really crucial step could be for the doctor to speak with the mother first, just for a moment, to prepare her for the difficult news her son is about to share.
You know, when you really look at it, what this whole hypothetical case shows us is a delicate balancing act. The real issue isn't just a simple conflict between a legal duty and a patient's privacy. It's about how a physician fulfills their true duty of care, and that's by building a foundation of trust.
The real takeaway here is that the solution isn't found in some legal textbook. It's found in human connection. It's not about picking a side. It's about the physician's really difficult but absolutely essential job of building a bridge of trust that can support everyone involved. It leaves us with a final crucial question. How do we best serve a patient's total well-being, not just their medical diagnosis?